Welcome back, guys. It's your boy the Ace, back with another special. So today we'll be diving into the dark web and the larger darknet ecosystem to unravel its complex and fascinating history. These coded realms were born out of concerns about privacy, freedom of speech and autonomy, and they've evolved to enigmatic spaces offering secure platforms for dissidents and havens in some respects for illicit activities. Before we dig in, be sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on HD content. Buckle up, turn up those speakers, and let's go. The story starts long before the term dark web or darknet came into our lexical understanding. In fact, in the 1970s and early 80s, early computer scientists and cryptographers were already considering ways to ensure privacy on computer networks as a whole. The development of the ARPANET, which a precursor to the modern internet as we know it, brought forth concerns about surveillance and the need for isolated communication channels. The concept, as we know it, Darknet, first appeared in 1974, referencing networks that internally operated separately from the ARPANET, or what would later be known as the internet. By the early 1990s, the cyberpunk movement already has started to emerge, with hackers and tech enthusiasts taking a hold of the movement, which advocated for strong cryptographic methods and secure digital communications throughout. Visionaries like Eric Hughes, Tim C. May, John Gilmore, and the list goes on, promoted privacy technologies like PGP, which is pretty good privacy, and anonymous remailers. They believed these technologies would protect personal freedoms in the increasingly digital age, the birth of Tor. Now, the dawn of the 21st century saw significant advancements in encryption and anonymous browsing. And in the early 2000s, the US Naval Research Labs launched the Onion Tor routing protocol, providing what they believe was secure anonymous communication channels for government use. Tor encrypts user data through multiple layers, like an onion, hence the term, and this bounces across a series of relays, ensuring no single relay knows both the origin and destination of said packets. And this segment takes me back to that pilot episode of Mr. Robot where Elliot is talking to Ron and he alludes that he who controls the exit nodes controls the traffic on said networks.
Boys.
Pardon me?
You're using Tor networking to keep the servers anonymous. You made it really hard for anyone to see it, but I saw it. The onion routing protocol, it's not as anonymous as you think it is. Whoever's in control of the exit nodes is also in control of the traffic, which makes me the one in control.
Which, as a statement, can be true. While the exit node cannot identify the user's original IP, it can see the traffic passing through it, meaning that whoever actually does control it potentially can monitor and tamper with any unencrypted data. So there is some truth in what was being said there. Now, if we take it back to what was happening in 2004, Tor became an open source and available to the public, allowing anyone with any technical know-how to browse the web anonymously. But it wasn't until 2007 that Tor introduced hidden services, enabling websites to operate anonymously on a network with the .onion address. Now, these hidden services mark the beginning of the modern dark web as we know it today, where individuals could browse and host websites without revealing their true identity. The rise of Silk Road. Now, with the birth of these .onion addresses, launched what we know as these hidden services. It wasn't long before entrepreneurs began experimenting with anonymous marketplaces. Now, the most famous to date has to be Silk Road by Ross Ulbricht, aka Dread pirate robbers. Now, Silk Road became notorious for facilitating the sale of illicit goods like drugs, forged documents, weapons, prostitution, hits, you name it, it was available. Now, the currency of choice here was, at the time, Bitcoin. Not worth what it is today, but it was a newly introduced cryptocurrency at the time and was integral to Silk Road's autonomous operations. It allowed transactions to be processed with a degree of autonomy, ensuring that buyers and sellers remained hidden. Now, the marketplace quickly grew into one of the largest online drug bazaars ever known, attracting significant attention from law enforcement later down the line. Now, in 2013, the FBI arrested Ulbricht in a cafe, and the whole season operation of how he was caught is quite a sad story. Nevertheless, this was just a bump in the Darknet marketplace activities. Now, after that, we saw the rise of numerous copycat marketplaces like Alpha Bay, Hansa, and obviously Silk Road 2.0, all to fill the void that was left behind. Accessing the Darknet. Now, as we mentioned, there is the possibility of installing Tor and accessing it, but that I would not recommend as a safe and secure method of using it. When accessing the Darknet securely, it's crucial to use tools and operating systems that prioritize privacy as well as security. Personally, I would look into Linux distros such as Tails, which provides a incognito live system of Linux and is privacy focused. You also have OSs like CubeOS, which is highly secure operating system, I might add, leveraging on the VM side of security policies. And you have Unix, which again is another open source operating system that runs on either VirtualBox or Cubes, and it uses two VMs, a gateway that routes traffic through Tor, and a workstation that remains isolated from that. That personally I would use on top of a VPN or proxy chain. Of course, this is not sponsored ad, but Nord, Molvad or Proton VPN are quite solid solutions. And in terms of proxy chains, if you know how to do it, and I will demo this later in the video, it's a concept that allows chaining of multiple proxies such as HTTP, SOC4 or SOC5, together making it possible to add another layer of autonomy by routing traffic through multiple proxies before actually connecting to Tor. Law enforcement crackdown. Now, after the Silk Road bust, authorities increased their focus on Darknet marketplaces. Operation Onimus, conducted in 2014, led to the seizure of Silk Road 2.0 and several other smaller marketplaces. As these kind of takedowns and crackdowns got bigger, in 2007 there was a coordinated international effort which resulted in the takedown of Alpha Bay and Hansa, two of the biggest ones at the time. Now, despite even these successes, new marketplaces emerged just as quickly, offering lessons, of course, from their predecessors and how they were obviously taken down. They started using more sophisticated encryption. It's because not only did you have multiple signature Bitcoin transactions, as well as other security measures to evade law enforcement. At the same time, new forms of cybercrime proliferated throughout the dark web. The most, and still even prominent today, is ransomware, which is a type of malware that encrypts a victim's data until a ransom is paid. Now, this found a natural marketplace among dark web forums. Cybercriminals also began to sell hacking tools, botnets, and stolen data in these forums, and this is prolific even today in 2024. The other side of the darknet. Now, while darknet activities are often linked to crime, it also serves as a vital role for journalists, activists, and whistleblowers living under oppressive regimes. Now, as we saw with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, all the way to Edward Snowden when the big NSA exposure came out, secure platforms like WikiLeaks, SecureDrop, Global Leaks allowed whistleblowers to share sensitive information with journalists while keeping their identities safe. As mentioned, the Snowden revelation in 2013, for example, helped raise awareness of the huge and still ongoing government surveillance, driving more people towards not only Tor and privacy, but actually awakening them to what's actually going on. Now, Tor and I2P, which is the Invisible Internet Project, allowed for another anonymity network to exist and provide uncensored news to people around the globe or their side of the story. Now you have governments such as in Russia and China that actually bring down physical firewalls over their ISPs so you can't get out. So platforms like this do provide you a channel for a voice. The evolution and trends. Now the modern darknet marketplaces continue to adapt to new technological challenges. Cryptocurrency like Monero, for example, which is more advanced privacy features than Bitcoin, are increasingly popular in today's marketplace. The rise of decentralized networks such as blockchain tech or blockchain-based marketplaces could make future darknet markets more resilient to government takedowns. These platforms operate without a central authority, making them harder to seize. But the flip coin of that is when you get scammed or ripped off or anything happens to your activity, you have no one to go to. So it's a double-edged sword here. Now, meanwhile, law enforcement agencies are improving their methods, often infiltrating forums. We see this even with the Silk Road takedown and conducting long-term investigations, not just out in their position from the jump. Operations like Europol's Dark Hunt Tor has shown us the increasing sophistication of these authorities combating darknet crimes, exploring the deeper levels. Now, aside from giving the history of how this came about, there are different levels to the internet, which are often portrayed as a journey into increasingly secretive and sophisticated realms. Now, as an overview, I'll give a breakdown of each level, and to date there is reportedly 8 levels to this, building on foundational layers and then expanding and discussing in more uncharted depths. Now, at layer 1 we have the surface web. Now, the surface web, also known as the visible web or indexed web, is what most people know and interact with daily. It includes all content indexed by standard search engines like Google or Bing. So sites like YouTube, Facebook, Netflix falls into these categories and represents about 4 to 5% of what you know to be the internet. At level 2, we have the Bergie web. Now, the Bergie web is the last layer, easily accessible without specialized tools. Here you find websites that are still publicly available but are not indexed by search engines, some private forums, archive sites, and underground image boards like 4chan exist in this layer. Content may be region locked, requiring some VPN access, but it's not that hard to get to. Now, at level 3, which is the deep web, the deep web refers to about 96% of online content that isn't indexed by any search engine. At this level, you encounter medical records, legal databases, paywall, academic journals, etc. This layer also includes the first part of the darknet that actually requires some proxy servers or Tor browsers to actually access it. Binary coded links, encrypted URLs, and complex protocols remain here. Now, at level 4, we're about halfway through how deep this goes, is the charter web. Now, the charter web is a more elusive and divided layer. First part still being accessed using Tor and other anonymizing tools. Here, illicit content like drugs, human trafficking, and counterfeit goods are traded widely on darknet markets. The hidden wiki provides a gateway to various forums, and I will show you later on how to get to the chartered web. The second part of this chartered web requires a closed shell system, which means a sophisticated or specific method to gain access. This includes the private forums, highly encrypted communication channels, and even disturbing content like what Drake's been accused of, actually.
Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor.
Level 5. Now at level 5, we have the Marianas web. Named after the Marianas Trench, the deepest natural point on Earth, believed to contain the most secure and confidential data on the internet. It is often described as the hub of secret military network or experimental quantum computing projects. Accessing it allegedly requires quantum computers and advanced cryptographic skills. So you're looking at possibly AI to even interact at this level. Now at level 6, as we get deeper into this, it's called the mediator between the Mariana web and level 7. Level 6 is said to be the mediator, acting as a bridge to the unknown. Now, this is where we get into conspiratorial stories, because no one actually knows. It's all theoretical at this point. But claims of quantum computing and elite skills are required to reach this point, and only a select few are said to have navigated beyond it. Level 7 is known as the fog or virus soup. It is often described as the battlefield where competing entities fight to reach the deeper layers. Now, these entities we do not know, is up for interpretation, but it is said to be advanced AI and malicious software constantly attempting to block others from advancing. This environment is filled with hostile virus code, reinforcing this soup concept. The intense rivalry and constant attack make reaching the next level almost impossible. At level 8, we have the Prime Arc system. Now, this is rumored to be the ultimate layer where the true power beyond the internet lies. Some stories describe it as an anomaly or unresponsive entity that nevertheless exerts random, uninterpretable influence over the entire net. Whether it controls information, guides web traffic, harbors incredible computing power, is all speculative. For me, it's almost like an Ultron-esque system, a sophisticated AI. For others, it could be extraterrestrial. At this point, no one can actually say. Practical session. Alright, welcome back guys to the practical session of what was quite a heavy theoretical section. Now, here we're using Parrot OS, and what I want to explore is, first of all, what the Anon surf and proxy chain element of an OS can do in terms of helping you stay anonymous. Second segment is what the dark web and Tor looks like in the environment once we have that set up. So first we go into application and privacy, and here you can see we have this Anon surf which is already bolstered on to the Parrot OS. Here you can start it, stop it, and also interact with it. So to begin, let's first see my IP from the ISP I am using and where it puts me. Now you can see here I'm based in the UK. Now let's see what happens when we stick Anon surf on. We can see it's not running, so that didn't start anything. Let's start it again. Alright, we have to kill the application it needs, which is obviously Firefox. Run that again. And now we can see here Anon surf is working and we're getting bandwidth from it. Now if we run this application again, remember we was UK based. Let's see where it plots us. Alright, we can see here we're in Amsterdam. Now another cool feature when it comes to Anon Tor, especially because it is using Tor here, and it has an outward port of 9051, is that we can go into privacy and change the node. Now change your ID, you're having a new identity added. Let's get the status again. We're back online. Let's revive that browser and revive that session. And this time we're in Germany, Hamburg. So it is changing our location. Couple of points here, especially with Anon. So it's a free application, of course, so you're going to get bugs and such with it. Secondly, it's slow. Can be very slow, especially even I'm on a fast network from my ISP, but the second you bottleneck that when you're going into a Tor network, you're at the whim of not only the entry nodes and the network itself, whether the traffic's quite slow on that network, but the obfuscated traffic means it is quite congested because you have millions of users around the world on the same network. The next application, if you haven't installed it yet, this does come most of the time pre-built with Kali Linux, but you have Proxy Chains or Proxy Chains 4, you can get that installed, and that has a dependency package of library Proxy Chains 4. If you go to sudo apt get install Proxy Chains, and I've already got this installed, 3.19 is the version that is current as time of recording. We can then go into sudo nano, the etc directory, Proxy Chains config. You can use vim if you wish. But essentially here, what we're going to do is edit this document, which configures how exactly Proxy Chain works. So within here, we have 3 fields of chaining. You have the dynamic chain, which each connection will be done via chain proxies. We have strict chaining, which each connection will be done and the chain order will be in the list in which you chain it, which is quite strict basically. You also have round robin chain, which each connection will be done again by a chain, but all proxies change in order of their appearance of the list, so it could go in any order. For this example, we will unhash the dynamic chaining for example's sake. The next section, if we go down a little bit further, lastly, we have sections regarding the local net exclusions, and then you have the proxy list formatting. Now, this is specific to the type of proxies you wish to choose, whether they're HTTP, SOC 4, 5, etc. But the higher the SOC, the higher probability of autonomy you have. Now here, I've set already, but it can be set by default, is the SOC 4 with your loopback address on your NIC card with the open port of 9050. I believe this is automatically done by Anon Surf because this piggybacks on the back of that application. But if you haven't used Anon Surf and go straight into this, some of these might be hashed and you'd have to add them in yourself. Also note that you can pay to add as many proxy chains to your trafficking as you want. There are open sources of proxy chain applications as well. Let me just save these changes. So that's all you would need for this anyway. But here, as we can see, there are numerous proxy address ports, and it gives you the proxy types, the anonymity of it, the country and city it's from, where it's being hosted, its latency, which is quite important because you don't know the uptime of these things, and it gives you the speed. Bearing in mind, like I mentioned, these are free that you can add to that list we were just looking at, but paid ones will be more reliable, more anonymous, and more faster. So, having said that, how do we use the proxy chain and what does it actually look like? Proxy chains, DuckDuckGo, which is now working. So we got proxy chains finally working by adding the SOC 5 proxy with the loopback IP, starting the Tor service, checking the Tor state is active, restarting the Tor, and then actually firing off proxy chains. And now we can finally see the chain is working. I hope even that segment helps someone out there fix this issue, because there's various forums I've seen where this isn't working at all. If you haven't installed Tor, also what you want to do is apt-get install Tor, and obviously hit that with a sudo, which I've already have installed. Now the next segment of this would be how to access the Tor network itself. So as before, we would start the Anon surf first. And just check that that service is running and it's active. Next, what we would do is install Tor itself. Well, we have the Tor launcher and the Tor browser, onion share. So we start the Tor launcher. Now you can see here the Tor server is in fact that loopback address. It's installed. All right, that took about 5 minutes, but we can now connect to Tor as a network. Now, as established connection, like I said, you can bolster this again with proxy chaining or VPN or the Anon surf option to give you that extra layer of security. Now, from here, we are ready to interact with the .onion extensions. So for example, we can find any number of .onion extensions. Bearing in mind these extensions here, this long string changes quite regularly because obviously the illicit and sometimes illegal nature of these extensions and sites, you might not be able to even access some of them. And there we have it, guys. If you go to Hidden Wiki, which is essentially a maintained repo of links that are ever changing, you can from there bounce onto other sites that are either up or down. Like I mentioned, these sites are prolifically taken down for the most part, or this link is ever changing. So from here we've got dark web hackers, and you can hire a hacker if you wish to do bad things. There's other sites here, of course, counterfeit, USD, D-dope, weed stores, non-commercial stuff. Literally, it's kind of what I said earlier. This guy's selling like counterfeit bills. Like, say if we wanted to go and buy some, what would we do? You need to log in or register to the site. We have here D-dope as well, selling hash and whatever. Again, if you try to buy, what happens? You need to register again. And this is kind of like the situation from the Silk Road times. They set up these crappy websites with these links that are hosted on this network. Then these links can go up and down, and you never know where they're being hosted, who's running the site, or how safe it is. So again, there's a fine line between this anonymized, decentralized nature of things and how safe you are as a consumer, or what path you're willing to walk when you deal with such things. I think I'm going to leave it there for now on the practical, but I hope that was educational. That was the Ace's deep dive into the dark web. For me, the dark web or net will remain a fascinating and controversial part of the internet and my daily use of it. Its autonomy provides an indispensable tool for not only free speech, but privacy. The balance between privacy and security and law enforcement will continue to define what the darknet actually is and how it evolves. I hope you enjoyed that session. It was a long one and an exploratory one. Let me know about any stories you have about the darknet or the dark web or your experience in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed. This is the Ace. Stay safe in the cyberspace. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and peace out.